They tell this one in the quiet car, when the lamps are turned low and the windows hold nothing but slow hills and the soft dark between them. It is an old story, older than the rails, and it is told the way all old stories should be told at night, gently, with no hurry at all. So settle in. The train knows the way. This is the tale of the fox who kept a promise. Long ago, in a valley stitched with orchards, there lived an old keeper of pear trees named Tamsin. Her cottage sat at the orchard's edge, with a green door, a deep hearth, and a kettle that sang a little flat. Every evening she walked her rows of trees with a lantern, touching the bark of each one, the way you might touch the shoulder of an old friend. And every evening the trees seemed to lean a little toward her light. One winter, when the snow lay thick and blue under the moon, a fox came to her gate. He was a small fox with a coat the color of late autumn, and he was tired and a little hungry and far too dignified to say so. Tamsin saw him from her window. She did not shoo him. She went down to the cellar where the winter pears slept in straw, and she chose 3 of the softest, and she set them on the flat gate post, and she went back inside so the fox would not have to be shy about it. The fox ate the pears slowly, the way you eat when you finally believe there will be more. When he was finished, he sat in the snow and looked at the lit window for a long while. Then he spoke, as animals could in those days, in a voice like dry leaves settling. "Keeper of pears," he said, "you have fed me without asking anything, and so I owe you a promise. I will repay this kindness for as long as your orchard stands." And Tamsin, who knew better than to argue with a fox about manners, only opened the window a crack and said, "Then come again when you are hungry, and we will call it even." But the fox did not believe in even. That is the thing about foxes. They keep accounts in their own way, and they keep them carefully. When spring came, Tamsin found the orchard paths cleared of fallen branches. Each twig moved aside as if by a tidy wind. When the blossoms opened, pale as little moons, the fox walked the rows at night and breathed his warm breath on the buds the cool air might have chilled, and every single one of them opened in its own good time. In summer, the fox came in the long gold evenings and lay in the grass while Tamsin worked. And he told her the news of the valley in his rustling voice. Which streams ran sweetest, which hill held the first ripe blackberries, where the herons stood like patient gray questions in the shallows. She told him, in turn, the names of all her trees, for every tree had a name, and the fox memorized them the way some folk memorize songs. In autumn, when the pears came down heavy and golden, the fox walked beneath the branches each night, and wherever a pear had fallen, he nudged it gently into the soft grass at the foot of its tree, so that Tamsin would find it cradled and whole in the morning. People in the village began to say that the orchard at the valley's edge was the gentlest place they knew. They were right, though they never learned exactly why. Years went by in this way, soft as turning pages. Tamsin's hair grew white as pear blossom. Her evening walks grew slower, and the fox slowed his own steps to match, though he pretended it was only because the evenings were too pleasant to hurry through. On cold nights she left the green door ajar, and he came in and lay by the hearth, and the kettle sang its flat little song, and neither of them counted who owed what to whom anymore, because the account had long since become something better than even. It had become a friendship. One autumn evening, when the harvest was in and the cellar was full of straw and sweetness, Tamsin sat in her chair by the fire, and the fox lay warm at her feet, and the lantern stood by the door, ready as always. "Shall we see to the trees?" she asked. And the fox said, "The trees are seen to. I walked the rows at dusk and said all their names. Everything is in its place. Tonight, keeper of pears, the orchard keeps us." So she rested her hand on his autumn-colored back, and the fire settled itself comfortably, and outside the trees stood in their quiet rows under the rising moon, holding the valley the way a held breath is slowly, gladly let go. And the promise, you ask? The promise was never finished, because it was never meant to be finished. It simply turned into all of those evenings, the way rivers turn without hurrying into the sea. And so they rested, the keeper and the fox, the orchard and the moon, and so they are resting still. That is the story they tell in the quiet car when the lamps are low. The hills go by, the rails hum their one long note. If you miss the beginning, do not worry. The night is long, and the story is patient, and it will come around again, like a fox on a snowy evening, soft-footed, keeping its promise. Sleep now. Everything is in its place.